So I'm going to go over again the pieces of Lab 2. And there's basically, if we look at what we did last week, this is what we basically created. Let me not have everything selected. Okay, first thing is that we have a platform. And this is so we know where we're working with. All right. By default, the trigger, which is the second piece right here, that's default. And we hit G, we go into its game view. This is what we see in game, like if we were running around. Now, granted, this light will be turned off when we start the game, but we'll come back. We can back that why in a moment. But the third piece again is the light itself, which is going to be a point light. All right. I'm going to go over here because I don't have other things in play, and I'm just going to rebuild it on the fly quickly for you. Again, the first thing I'm going to do is up here is add quickly to the project. Again, we got all sorts of things. So if you bought things from Fab, which is the content store, hooray. There's the Quixel Bridge, is another content thing. Don't worry about it. There is basic stuff that you can put down. They've got like actor, trigger box, trigger sphere. We're actually going to go down to volumes, and we're going to use basically the trigger volume. Where is it? It is below the floor. So I'm going to bring this out here. Okay. And for the sake of argument, we can actually go in, and I'm going to type in brush here. Where is the collision? There you go, brush settings. So when and this is an old terminology with Unreal. There used to be BSP brushes, which is basically solid or things that cut out. Think of something as solid, something's Boolean. They've moved this into another feature somewhere else, but basically this is like the size of the trigger, and it's a cube. For our purpose, I think I'm going to jump this to 400 across the board. Which is going to make it big. I'm gonna move this, and I'm gonna clear that out, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm also 10 above that as well. Basically, why 10 is I'm gonna make the platform about 10 units high approximately. So I'm gonna try and put the brush on top of it. All right, I'm going to add a basic shape cube. And I'm going to make this 0.1 high. And that's not the one I want. This is the 0.1. Sorry, thinking like Unity. I'm going to do a scale. I think this is going to be 4 by 4. So we go and we pull this in. Again, I do have snaps on. Where is the snaps? Here we go. So I got viewport related snappings. So I've got location. So I've got snappings on, which is what we want. I am looking at world coordinates as opposed to local coordinates. Again, the difference between world and local is basically that it reflects the rotation of the object. And if you can see that I'm actually floating a little bit. When I do 0.5, it ended up being 5 units high. So this is actually 205. There you go. Actually, I'm going to go back to 210. And I'm going to go back to U and do 0.2. There we go. All right, good. The last thing that we need for this is a light. We're going to go to the light section. And again, we're going to use a point light. I mean, if you want to play with the spot and rectangle and sky, rectangle and spot are the ones you would probably want to be playing with. You would not use a directional light. This is typically used for big overworld, like your sun, basically. It's one part of the directional light that you'd be playing with. So we're just going to pick a point light. And I'm going to pull this out of the wall. I'm going to bring this up here. And just so we know that this is working, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pick red. And I'm going to jump the intensity significantly so that we have, so you can see that green hue. So one of the things that we can do is we can turn the visibility, the rendering, on and off. The other way is that we can also play with the intensity, so we can actually bring that down to 0, candela. So that's two ways we can control the light. Conversely, I could, in theory, make this white and then change the light color. That would be another way that we could have this be affected. So, but the point here is that, well, we've got these 3 pieces now in play. I did go into my content draw and go to the starter content, which we added, and bring in materials. Yep, I'll go over that later. Yep. Back to my content draw. I'm just gonna. So we're gonna put basically material on there, just so that we have a material on there. All right. We are going to be working with the level blueprint. So I'm going to bring up, here it is, and it is the second section. So later on, we will create a new empty blueprint. We'll create blueprint classes later on. This week, we're just working with the level blueprint. And it's going to bring up another window. You will see like this window is going to be undocked or somewhere else. Do you a favor, dock it up here. For how you're going to be working, it'll be beneficial for you to basically dock it up here. I'm going to go back to the event graph. So we created a function. And I'm just going to go up here. And I'm going to type in begin play. All right. I am going to, for our purposes, will it let me get away? No, it's not. Okay. I'm going to break this link. So I'm going to use begin play by itself up here. And let's go back to the level. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to grab the light. I have the light selected. I can now create a reference to the point light 3. So now I have a reference to it. So basically, we are referring to objects that existed within the level. And this is something that you can do with the level blueprint. When we go to class blueprints, there'll be a completely different way how we handle this. So just be mindful of this. So level blueprint, I'm going to drag a line off of here. And I want to drag a line off here because I want to be content sensitive is going to be relative to this, what you've dragged from. And I'm going to do visibility. And we're going to set the point light component, set visibility. And I'm going to move this out. And you'll see that you pick one and it gives you this one of these. And it's converting it from this entity, from the actor, to getting just the point light component on it, to this right here. And we're going to plug this in, and we'll make sure the new visibility is off. And that's all that we need to do to turn the light off when we begin play. When we moving forward, let's go back to our level. I'll just compile it. We'll just so we have an idea of what's going on. I'm going to press play. And we'll turn around. Again, we turned that off, so that's not working. But you can see that the light is not on the one that we're working with. So, one of the things that will happen later on is that, like begin play, we're dealing with individual pieces. Later on, when we get to the level blueprint itself, each individual blueprint instance will have their own begin play call. So we won't have to worry about, oh, we have to connect this one to that one as well. So not an issue here. All right, let's select the trigger. And let's go back to lab, and let's make an instance of it. actually, it's not. That's not what we want to do. I did this again. What we want to do is create and add an event for the trigger. And it's going to be under collision. And then the two that we are going to play with is begin overlap and end overlap. I'm going to do end overlap first because this one's going to be easy because we can just drop this up here and connect this into that node right there, and we are done. I can go down and I can do add event for trigger do collision. Conversely, I could also do begin overlap and get that as well. And I'm basically going to grab these three nodes. I'm just going to copy and paste them. I'll plug that in here. And I'll make sure that the new visibility is turned on in this case. And now that we've done that, I can compile. Control-Shift-S could save everything. I'll go back to level. And then I'll turn. This is the trigger I want. I'll just run in. You can see that the light is turning on, turning off. Now, if we go over here, you'll see that, I went in, you can see the start overlap. When I'll go out, you can see the lights turns off. So once I start working with that. Again, this version over here, still, it's still working, except the light's not being turned off at the beginning. And that's pretty much what we're looking for you to do with the lab this week. Is I have basically over here, I have basically a message in here. Not required, but useful for if you were doing anything with debugging, that's really useful to know that, hey, my trigger is actually working. Now let's just jump down to the other one again, and I did that by using a print string. In this case, I basically am hard basically coding what that print string is going to be. And again, that is I dragged off a line and I typed print, and we'll use print string. There is a print text, which is a Unreal Engine specific thing. Don't worry about text right now. And there is also, Unreal has 3 string types: string, text, and name. We'll talk more about those 2 others in a future lecture, but I'm just pointing them out so you're not confused between them. All right. I'm going to stop the recording right here. I'll get this up soon.